Hello there, welcome back to another live coding session. Last week we've built something, what was it? What did we do last week? First we did the search engine thing, and then, let me look it up, I completely forgot. What was it? Oh, it was the verify breeze thing. So yeah, so we created a fresh Laravel instance with the new breeze package, and then we did some email verification stuff, which you can all find in the previous stream. So let me check if my audio works this time. Yeah, should be fine. That's nice. So last week I had a bit, I had some troubles with the audio signal, but today it all works. So yeah, so we should be fine. So today I'm going to show you how to really quickly build some forms in Laravel with Tailwind CSS. Here I have a fresh Laravel installation, version 8.15. I did install the Breeze package because, as we saw last week, it's a really easy way to scaffold some authentication routes and forms, and it's really nice. So we've got that installed, and the only thing I did was add 2 new routes, because today we're going to build a settings page. So I've created this settings route, a get route and a post route, and here you can see my settings controller with nothing in it except for this settings view. And this settings view is just a duplicate of the dashboard, which I will show you in a minute. So yeah, 2 new routes, and the only thing I installed was the Laravel debug bar, which you're probably familiar with. So here is that fresh Laravel application again. Here's the dashboard. I've created a user. You can see that here in the database. So this is my freshly created user. And over here, I've created a new navigation link for the settings page. So it's empty, of course, for now. So that will be, let's see, let's go back to the settings controller, settings view. That's this blade view right here. Here's the settings header. So maybe I could change it to user settings to prove to you that this is the right view. So I've got a little package right here, which is called Laravel form components, which makes it really easy to build forms with Laravel. It works with both Tailwind CSS and Bootstrap 4, but as Laravel Breeze comes with Tailwind CSS installed, we will use that as well. So yeah, let's install it with Composer. Let's go back to the terminal, and here it is, the application, artisans working. Again, Laravel 8. So let's install it. It's got no additional dependencies, just the package. And first, let's add some new attributes, some new columns to this user model. So I will create a migration, art make. So and I've got a little shortcut for PHP artisan, which is art. So art make migration, add settings, setting fields, something like that, to the users table. So in the database folder, migrations, here's our new users table, or it is of course the existing user table, but our new migration. That's what I meant to say. So for some reason I made a mistake in the naming, but never mind. To the user scheme table, let's add a biography for the user. So table text biography, which can be nullable. Let's add a setting for the theme. So whether this user wants a dark or a light theme. And we default it to light. What more can we add? Maybe a language. String language. And let's default that one to English. And I want a boolean as well. Maybe for newsletter. So boolean subscribe to newsletter, which defaults to false. Oh, without the S, of course. Default false. So we've got this set up: biography, theme, language, subscribe to newsletter. Yep. And let's add a cast for this boolean in the user model. So let's open models, user, and casts subscribe to newsletter should be a boolean. And I will also delete the fillable attribute because I'm gonna unguard the whole application. So I usually do this in the app service provider, model, the eloquent model unguard. So this unguards every eloquent model in your application. I'm not a big fan of the whole fillable guarded stuff, so I just unguard everything. Yeah, we don't need this as well. So let's clean it up. We've got a user model with 4 of these columns. Let's migrate the database. So back to SQL. In the structure of the table, we have 4 new fields: biography, theme, language, and subscribe to newsletter. And if we refresh the content of the table, we see biography is null, the theme is light, language is English, and subscribe to newsletter is 0, which is false. So let's start with building our form. I will close all these folders for now. So instead of doing this inline, I will include a new view so we keep this view a bit clean. So in the view folder, let's call this settings form for now. Of course, in a real life application, you would probably structure this differently. So include settings form. So usually you would do something like you open the form element, you include the CSRF directive, and you start working on your form. So maybe if you want to change the user's name, you create an input with a type of text. You give it a name, which is name, and let's give it the default value, which is the authenticated user's name. So let's see if this works at all. Let's go back to Firefox, hit refresh, and yeah, there is our input element. So this subview works, but of course we're gonna build this form with the package and with Tailwind CSS custom forms. So Tailwind has a plugin, which is called an official plugin, by the way, which is called custom forms, and it's included by default with the Laravel Breeze package. So you don't have to install it manually. It should work. Let's see what we can do. So yeah, like I said, there's actually nothing to do over here. So this package makes use of Laravel Blade components, which are absolutely fantastic. So instead of opening a form like this, we're gonna prefit it with an X. So X form. We don't need this directive because it's included by default. The input element is also prefixed with the X. I don't think we need type because it's by default set to text. And for now, I'm gonna rip out this value attribute as well. So let's see what this brings us. Let's hit refresh. So now we already have some styling. I will show you. So it has a form input class, a rounded class, a shadow class. This is all default Tailwind stuff. So let's give this input element a label. And we call that label your name. And it doesn't work. Why doesn't it work? Let's go to the... we need form input instead of input. Let's do that again. Form input. Oh, so yeah, of course, the Laravel Breeze package has a input component as well, which was the one that you saw in the application. So yeah, now when we hit refresh, we've got a label and we've got the full width input element. So that's nice. Let's set the default value. We can do this in two ways. Of course, you can use the value attribute. So something like this, the thing that we had. We grab the user from the request instance. We get the name attribute. This works. But this package also supports model binding. So we can call this bind directive with the user object. Let's replace this with request user, of course, because we don't have a user instance. We can remove the value, and we need this and bind directive as well. Let's hit refresh, and it still has my name. So that works fine. So it grabs the name from this bound model automatically. You don't have to do anything for it. So let's see. Let's go to our settings controller. And let's validate the incoming request. So request, validate, and then we have the rules. So our first rule is the name, and yeah, we just want it to be required. I think that's the only rule for now. So of course we need a submit button as well. Back into our form. This is probably called form submit. And there it is, our submit button. And you can change the title as well. I don't know if it's called title or label. Let's take a look in the documentation. I'm sure we can find it somewhere. Submit button. Or maybe not. Well, let's try. Submit, title, save settings. Oop. Doesn't work. Then maybe label. Doesn't work as well. Oh, it's a slot, so of course. So instead of an attribute, I think we should do something like this. Yeah, now it works. So this is nice because now you can add things like loaders as well, or icons or whatever. So we've got our name input, our submit button, and we validate the incoming request in our controller. So let's see what happens if we leave this input element empty. Save settings. And there is our validation. So that's built in as well. You don't have to do anything to get this to work. So with just a few lines of code, we've got model binding. We've got a form input element which has a label built in. We have a custom submit button, and we have form validation. So I think that's pretty awesome for just 9 lines of code. So what more do we have? Let's take a look at the text area. Because for our biography, we want a text area. This is a hard word. So hit refresh again. And there it is. So let's see. If we submit this form without a name, so remember we don't have a validation rule for biography for now. Let's remove my name. Let's do something in the biography. Save settings. This should fail because the name is empty. And it did fail, but it also remembered the old input for biography. So that works as well. So we got our biography set up. Let's take a look at a checkbox. Or checkbox. And this checkbox, we will attach it to the, what was it called? Subscribe. Oop. Sorry about it. User model, subscribe to newsletter. That's what the attribute is called. So name, subscribe to newsletter, and label, do you want to subscribe to the newsletter? Let's hit refresh. So there's our little checkbox. Works as well, but we need a bit of spacing there. So let's wrap it in a div. And let's give it a margin of 3. Tailwind scale margin. Yeah, this looks better to me. So let's validate the biography and the subscribe to newsletter input keys. So the biography is not required, but it should be a string. But it can be nullable. And subscribe to newsletter can be nullable as well. And it is a Boolean. Yep, that's fine. So what's next? We have a theme, which I want it to be radio elements. So let's go back to our documentation. Yeah, so this is called form radio, and we'll talk later about this form group thing. But let's start with the radio element. So in our settings form, I'm gonna copy paste this form radio for the theme. This one has a value of light, and the label is light mode, and we will create another radio element for dark mode. Yep. So let's see what that looks like. Yeah, seems to work. So I want these radio elements to be inline, and to do that, there is a form group element, a form group component to wrap these two radio elements. So let's do that. The name again is theme, and we can give it a label. Which UI theme do you want to use? So yeah, looks better to me. The only thing left to do is the select element, but first let's validate this theme input. So theme, it's required, and it should be light or dark. All right, the only one left is form select for the language. And this select element, the select component, it's a blade component, has an attribute called options, and we can give it the languages array. So let's go back to our settings controller and give this view the languages data. For now, I'm only going to support English and Dutch. Let's see if this works at all. English and Dutch. Yeah, sure. So maybe we can give it a label as well. Let's do that after options. Label. Select your language. Yes. So again, in the settings controller, language is required and should be English or Dutch, which is NL for the Netherlands. So yeah, let's play with this. I will close the inspector. So I've got my name. The biography is not required. Let's see if we if the old data works for all fields. So I'm gonna make my name empty again, do something in the biography field. I want to subscribe to the newsletter, dark mode and Dutch, and then hit save again. And yeah, it remembered everything. So the biography is still there. The newsletter checkbox is still there. The UI theme radio elements are still there. And the language selector is still there. So let's save this to the database. If you are really lazy, you can do something like this. Grab all the data from the validator. Let me show you what that looks like. So I will type in my name again, save settings, and here we have the name, biography, all the fields. And let's update the user. So from the request instance, we grab the user, we call the update method with the data, and then we redirect back. And I'm not sure if Laravel Breeze has maybe a message support, something like an alert model. So let's take a look in the app layout. What do we have here? We've got header, navigation. Maybe it's in the navigation. I don't think so, but you never know. No, doesn't look like it. So how does this work for reset password? No, nothing to see here. Session status. Let's give it a shot. So apparently this Laravel Breeze package has a auth session status component. And I guess if I include it here and I will change the key to settings. Let's hit refresh to make sure we didn't break anything. So yeah, still works. Let's see. Session flash. Your settings are updated. Let's see what. Let's see if this works with. Yeah, it works. So let's update everything. Let's change my name. Add a biography. I want to subscribe. Dark mode and Dutch. Save settings. And it seems to work. Let's take a look at the database. Biography, dark, Dutch. And I'm subscribed. So let's see if we can unsubscribe. And we can't. So why is that? Let's dump data once again. So unsubscribe, save settings, and as you see, it doesn't have that subscribe to newsletter key in this array because it didn't send it. If you uncheck a checkbox in HTML, it just doesn't send it. So what you could do about this is set it manually. So data subscribe to newsletter equals a request, and we're not going to use input this time, but there is a special Boolean method, and we give it that key again, dump it out. So now no matter what you send, there is always a subscribe to newsletter key in your data array. So this is what we need, of course. I think the same is the same might be true for biography, but let's see. So let's subscribe again and unsubscribe. Yeah, so we fixed that. So now within 20 lines of code or something like that, we've got a form with model binding, with a custom element here and there. We've got validation, old input data. This all works beautifully. And the cool thing about this is you can customize it really easily. So this is all default Tailwind theming, but you can publish these components. So let's do that. Let's take a quick look. Vendor publish. And we need this Laravel form components service provider, which is 10. So now in our view directory, we have a vendor directory, and it only has this form components directory with all the Tailwind components. So let's open input. This is the view for the input element. So here we have that form input, the full width, you name it. And you can customize this in ways you like it. So yeah, what might be, let's see, what's a quick example of this? Maybe we can make this div have another background red 500. Yeah, it's really ugly, but you get the idea. Maybe you don't want full width input element. And of course, if you can wrap this whole thing as well. So if you want a smaller form, maybe you can do something like max width SM. Or maybe you want to center it. And remember, these are all blade components. So we've got some values right here. But it's really easy, for example, to translate these values. So label, instead of your name, you can do this as well. So of course now it's going to say your name as well. All right. So another thing I wanna find out is how easy it is to replace this whole form with a Laravel, Livewire component. So I've only worked with Livewire version 1. Let's see how we can migrate this to Livewire 2. So I've got documentation right here. Of course, we need to install it with Composer. So let's do that. It's downloading, installing. Yeah, so what do we need to do? We need to include the JavaScript on every page that we'll be using Livewire. So we need this directive. Let's go into the app layout. So before closing the head, Livewire styles, and then before closing the body tag, we need Livewire scripts. All right, and then create a component. We will call this component settings. Would you like to? Yeah, no, I think I already did that. Running this component give you 2 files. So now we have a Livewire PHP component and a blade component. Or sorry, PHP file and a blade file. So yeah, that's right. We've got a Livewire settings object with a settings view. Right. So how are we going to include this view? Include the component, Livewire, and then give it a name. So back to our settings page. Let's include the Livewire settings component, and let's grab this, paste it into the Livewire component, fix the indentation, and we will grab the form as well. Yeah, seems nice. So this, I know that this bind directive won't work with Livewire. I think there is a wire directive. Let's see. Oh, here it is. Sorry, I overlooked it. So wire. Let's see. Wire and end wire. And let's refresh the page to see if it still works. It doesn't work because we don't have the languages. Makes sense. So let's see how we can get it into the Laravel Livewire component. Properties, maybe. I think I already know how to do this. You probably need to give it the data just like you do in the controller. So we need this. I think this is gonna work, right? Yeah, data. So let's skip the documentation, hit refresh. And yeah, so we've got our basic form working. Let's see. But of course it doesn't have values, but it does have a wire model name. So yeah, that's nice. Let's go back to the Livewire documentation. I have a really hard time remembering Livewire. Why is it so hard? Right, we need this. So let's create 5 properties. You probably can do this easier. I'm quite sure you can, but let's start here. So we need these 5. We need a mount method. And we set it to the user default. So this is really ugly, but let's do this. User equals request user, and then we can replace all these methods with user. So let's see if this works at all. Refresh. Yeah, seems to work. So that's nice. And let's see if we can submit the form. So where's that? Validation. So there's a rules property. Let's paste that in. And let's grab our rules from the controller. There's a submit method, which calls a validate method and then executes everything below. So let's start with validation. And we need to bind this method to the form. So form wire submit dot prevent is submit. Let's see. Here is our settings view. And let's paste it into the form element. So I'm gonna hit refresh again. Remove my name. Hit the settings button. And yeah, there it is. We have our validation error. So let's see. Let's open the network tab in the inspector. Hit it once again. So it did post something to a special Livewire route. It's probably too... oh, I can make this bigger as well. So it did a post request to our application, to the Livewire route. And of course, this is all Livewire magic. You don't have to worry about it. So it has a fingerprint, a memo, update. Here is our data. And wow, some magic going on here. This might be from the Laravel debug bar, I'm not sure. I can't find the validation errors in here, but I'm probably not familiar enough with Livewire to understand how this works. So I'm not gonna worry about this. Let's continue building this settings component. So when the validation is successful, we're gonna once again update our user. So I will grab the user, call the update method, and then we kind of need the inverse of this. So let's see if we can make this easy. Yep. Yeah, that's it. Let's see if it works. So I'm going to close the inspector. I'm going to refresh. Here is the component. And let's change my name, biography, subscribe, light, and we set the language back to English, save settings. It did a refresh. I saw something flashing right here. So let's hit refresh to see if it really updated. And yeah, it did. So we need to show the user somehow that we've updated its account. So let's see how we can do that. Let's see. Flash messages. Oh, you can just do that in the method itself. That's nice. So back to our settings controller. Let's grab this session flash and let's paste it in here. Let's see if it works. Save settings. Yeah, sure, it worked. So now we have a regular form updated to Livewire. And yeah, we can just, we could remove this. But I'm gonna leave it for now. I wonder if we could replace this with just a user model. We probably can. Let's take a look. Binding, yeah. Yeah, we need this. This is what we need. Yeah. So public user. Oh. Let's comment these out. And on mount, we're gonna set this user to the authenticated user. We can get rid of this as well. And if I understand correctly, we need to update the rules as well. So user.name, user.biography, etc. And we need to update the Laravel Livewire view as well. So all these name attributes, we should update them to user.name, user.biography. Let's hit refresh to see if it still works. It still works. Wow. So how are we gonna update this? we're just gonna call user save, right? Yeah. That's really clean. So let's remove this. Instead of grabbing the user again, of course, we have a user in the user property. So user save. Let's remove these attributes, properties. So now we have a user property. We have our user rules. We set the user property when the component mounts, and we set it with the authenticated user from the request instance. On submit, we validate the fields. When we pass the validation, we save the user and we flash this message. And that's it. So I'm gonna hit refresh one more time. Let's see if validation still works. It still works. Let's update it. Let's change this to some random numbers again. I'm gonna unsubscribe from the newsletter, use dark mode, and use the Dutch language. Save settings. Your settings are updated. Let's hit refresh in the browser to see if it really updated. Yeah, it works wonderfully. 1, 2, 3, ABC, subscribe, light, English. I just want to do this one more time. Yeah, that's nice. It's so fast. And this is quite clean. This is really cool. So so we've replaced all this with this. And now we have a dynamic form which doesn't refresh on validation errors. It doesn't refresh when you save it. Yeah, that's nice. So I will upload this application to GitHub so you can take a quick look for yourself. I will leave this here as well, the old settings controller, before we got into Livewire. If you are interested in that. Maybe maybe you're interested in this Boolean method. See how this works. I'm really amazed by I'm really amazed by Livewire's elegance. So it's really clean. I'm not sure if this holds up with really large forms. It probably does, but for something like this, like a settings user controller where we can get rid of this whole thing, that's quite amazing. And yeah, of course, we can get rid of this languages data as well, because we have it here in the Livewire component as well. So one more look at the settings form itself. We use Laravel Blade components to open form. It has some directives. It has a wire directive to bind all these elements to a wire, Livewire property, but you can do it without Livewire as well with the bind directive, as we saw earlier. We've got a bunch of form elements, which are Laravel Blade components as well. So again, really easy to customize. Let me show you one more thing. So you can customize these blade views, but there is more. So you can add a prefix to all these components. It's really easy to change the framework. So you can just swap out Tailwind and go on with Bootstrap 4. And each element has its own configuration key. So the view is independent from the component logic. So say you are not happy with one of these components, for example, the form checkbox component, you can extend this class, but you can also create your own. So the logic is completely separated from the views, which make it really easy to customize. So I think that's it for today. Thanks for watching again. Stay safe, and I'll see you soon. Bye bye.